Have you ever wondered why entire nations, companies, or even friend groups willingly follow leaders who clearly exploit, manipulate, and harm those they lead? From ruthless dictators in history to modern-day corporate tyrants, toxic leaders have not only existed, they've thrived. But here's the unsettling truth. They thrive because we allow them to. This is not just about politics or business. It's about human nature. The psychology behind toxic leadership is deeply rooted in our evolutionary history.
You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Social conditioning, and emotional vulnerabilities. And once you understand it, you'll see the patterns everywhere, in your workplace, your community, and even in the way we consume media. Today, we'll unravel the dark psychology behind why we follow toxic leaders. And by the end, you'll not only recognize these patterns, but you might start questioning the authority figures in your own life. The charisma trap. Toxic leaders rarely begin by showing their true colors. Instead, they enter our lives wrapped in the seductive cloak of charisma. Charisma is magnetic. It draws us in before we can analyze the person's actual competence or morality. Research in social psychology shows that humans instinctively respond to confidence as if it were proof of ability. We evolved this way because, in small tribal societies, confident leaders were more likely to survive and protect their groups. Confidence signaled capability. Toxic leaders exploit this by over-projecting certainty. They speak in absolutes, simplify complex problems, and present themselves as the only one with the answers. We eat it up because our brains are wired to feel safer when someone seems sure of themselves. Think of how Adolf Hitler rallied a devastated Germany, not with nuanced policies, but with fiery speeches and unwavering certainty. Or how some CEOs promise unrealistic success, but sell it so convincingly that people buy into the dream. Here's the dangerous part. Once we fall for charisma, we start filtering information to confirm our positive view of the leader. This is called the halo effect. Their confidence makes us assume they are intelligent, moral, and capable, even if evidence suggests otherwise. And before we know it, we're defending them, excusing their mistakes, and even attacking anyone who criticizes them. The fear and security paradox. One of the most powerful tools in the toxic leader's arsenal is fear, but not the obvious kind. They don't just scare us into submission. They make themselves the solution to that fear. In psychology, this is tied to what's called terror management theory. When people are reminded of threats, whether it's war, economic collapse, or social chaos, they instinctively gravitate towards strong, decisive leaders, even if those leaders are authoritarian. The more unstable we feel, the more we crave someone who appears unshakable. Toxic leaders create or exaggerate threats, then present themselves as the shield against them. This isn't just a political tactic. It happens in offices too. A toxic boss might subtly imply that without their leadership, the team will fail, the company will collapse, or competitors will destroy them. And here's the paradox. Even though their leadership style often creates instability, people cling to them harder in times of crisis. This creates a vicious cycle. The leader creates fear, offers protection, and deepens their power while the followers' ability to think critically erodes. It's why some regimes stay in power for decades. The population may be miserable, but they're convinced that any alternative would be worse. The manipulation of group identity. Humans are social creatures. Our survival once depended on belonging to a tribe, and this ancient instinct is still alive in us today. Toxic leaders know this, and they weaponize it. They create an us versus them narrative. By painting outsiders as dangerous, immoral, or inferior, they strengthen in-group loyalty. This taps into our tribal instincts, making us feel that our identity, safety, and values are tied to the leader's cause. Once this identity-based loyalty sets in, people aren't just supporting a leader, they're defending themselves. Criticism of the leader feels like a personal attack. This is why political followers will excuse corruption if it comes from their side. It's why cult members will stay loyal to leaders who exploit them. It's why sports fans will defend a cheating player if he's on their team. The more isolated the group becomes from outside perspectives, the stronger the loyalty gets. And in the age of social media, toxic leaders can reinforce this echo chamber more easily than ever. Algorithms feed us only content that supports our group's worldview, deepening the psychological hold. The reward and punishment cycle. If charisma gets us hooked and fear keeps us dependent, the reward-punishment cycle keeps us trapped. Toxic leaders are masters at controlling behavior through intermittent reinforcement, a psychological technique where rewards and punishments are unpredictable. This is the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. One moment, the leader praises you or gives you a small reward, making you feel valued valued and loyal. The next moment, they criticize you harshly or withhold approval. This emotional roller coaster keeps followers constantly working to regain the leader's favor. In workplaces, this could mean sudden bonuses followed by public humiliation. In politics, it could mean selective rewards for loyal supporters and harsh crackdowns on dissenters. In relationships, it's the classic cycle of love bombing and emotional withdrawal. The uncertainty is the trap. You never know which version of the leader you'll get, so you stay invested, hoping for the good version to return. Psychologists call this trauma bonding. It's one of the most powerful emotional chains that can keep people tied to abusive authority figures for years, even decades. The comfort of cognitive dissonance. Even when the truth becomes impossible to ignore, many people still follow toxic leaders. Why? Because admitting they were wrong is more painful than continuing to believe in the leader. This is the power of cognitive dissonance. When our actions and beliefs conflict, for example, believing a leader is good while seeing evidence of their cruelty, our brains experience discomfort. To reduce that discomfort, we often change our interpretation of reality rather than our loyalty. We tell ourselves, they're not perfect, but they're better than the alternative. The media is lying about. They're doing bad things for the greater good. The longer someone has invested in following a toxic leader, emotionally, socially, or financially, the harder it becomes to break free. Leaving would mean admitting they were deceived, and that can feel like losing a part of their identity. This is why so many followers defend toxic leaders even when presented with undeniable proof of their wrongdoing. The human mind is wired to protect its own self-image, even at the cost of the truth. Breaking the cycle. Toxic leaders are not just a product of their own psychology. They are a reflection of ours. They exist because they exploit the most ancient and vulnerable parts of the human mind. Our attraction to confidence, our fear of chaos, our tribal instincts, and our need for identity and belonging. The good news is, awareness is the first step to breaking the cycle. Once you see the psychological hooks, charisma, fear, identity manipulation, reward-punishment cycles, and cognitive dissonance, you can start to resist them. History shows us that toxic leadership always comes at a cost. Whether it's the collapse of empires, the downfall of corporations, or the destruction of personal lives, the damage is inevitable. But history also shows us that people can break free. They can choose leaders who value truth over control, unity over division, and integrity over personal power. The question is, when the next toxic leader rises, will you recognize them before it's too late?